The last week we started learning about Hallel, whether you make a bracha on Hallel, complete Hallel, half Hallel, if it's a minig or a din. We also discussed why you don't make a shechionu on Hallel, because any mitzvah that you do within a half a year, so then you don't make a shechionu on that bracha. Okay, now ideally, Hallel should be read with the minyan. It's very important that Hallel should be said with the minyan. To the extent it's brought down that the Rabbeim, many of them would daven very long, but whenever it was Shabbos Yom Tif or something like Rosh Chodesh, they would make sure to daven with the minyan. They wouldn't be davening for hours in order to be able to say Hallel with the minyan. To the extent, I'm not saying everybody does this, but according to the way halacha, the way we hold it, not necessarily people do it. But what happens if you're in the middle of davening, middle of Pesukah de Zimra, okay? And the minyan is saying Hallel, according to Shulchan Aruch, according to halacha, you stop in the middle of Pesukah de Zimra, you say Hallel with them, you don't make the bracha at the beginning and the end, because Baruch Shamar is good for the beginning bracha and Yishtabach is good for the end bracha. But that shows how important it is to daven, what?
What about
No. I mean, by the way, if somebody davens alone, by themselves, no minyan, they do say Hallel, and by the Rebbe writes in Ayayim clearly that if you daven by Yochid, by yourself, you say the bracha even in half Hallel, you make the bracha before and the end. So you don't need a minyan to say Hallel. The reason why, by the way, on Pesach, we don't say bracha on the Hallel, because it's split. The first two chapters are said before the second wine, and the end chapters are said after benching. So therefore we don't make a bracha on it.
What if you're in the middle of Shema?
No, middle of Shema, we'll soon see what you're allowed to answer. No, the other way. No, in middle of Shema you don't answer. Okay? So, again, now technically what happens if you come to Shul late and the minyan saying Hallel, you should say Hallel with the minyan and then go daven Shacharis. That's what it says in halacha. Okay, next is what? No, you don't have to. I'm talking now halacha. It says in halacha that you're supposed to before davening with the minyan, and then you don't do it.
You just go along where the minyan is.
Correct. Okay. Now on Rosh Chodesh, if you notice, we skipped 2 chapters. We skipped Leilanu and Ohafti. Right, Rosh Chodesh, we say it's called half Hallel. It's not really half; it's much more than half. But we leave out those 2 chapters of. Why do we leave them out? So the Rama, interestingly, says some people leave out these 2, some people leave out others. We leave out 2 chapters because we want to show it's only a custom. It's not a din. We learned Yom Tiv, Chanukah. It's a mitzvah to say Hallel, you make a bracha, according to all opinions. But because Rosh Chodesh is only a minig, to show the differentiation that it's only a minig and not a mitzvah, so therefore we skip those 2 parts of Hallel. Why you skip? Because it says it's similar to the ones before and after. That's why we skip those 2. Okay, next is what happens if a guy started saying, by mistake, he started saying Leilanu. Okay? By mistake, he started saying, and he realized, so you finished the pasuk you started, and that's it. So let's say a guy by mistake said, Leilanu Hashem Leilanu. So you finished the pasuk in L'Chim Tein Kabir Achascha Mitach. You finished the pasuk that you started. You don't want to stop in the middle of a pasuk. What?
Very practical.
Very practical. You just... There's a din like that, and by Shabbos we learned what happens if somebody starts davening a weekday Shemoneh Esrei on Shabbos. So the Gemara Shulchan Aruch says it's a bad sign, but if you started, then the din is you finish the bracha you started. You finish the bracha you started, because really we should say it on Shabbos. We learned all that stuff. Now what happens though if you already daven mincha? And then you come to shul, you forgot you daven mincha already. And now you start in the middle, you started davening Shemoneh Esrei for mincha. So then the din is, you stop even in the middle of a bracha. Because whatever bracha you're saying is going to be in vain. Here, Shabbos is not in vain because you really should be saying those brachas. So, Shabbos, I'm just saying, so here you finish the pasuk, but something that's interesting. In Hallel, what are you allowed to stop for? Let's say the minyan is saying Kedusha, and you're in the middle of Hallel. Okay? So, during Hallel, in other places, it's a different, in halacha between complete Hallel, half Hallel, by us, there's no difference. The din is, you answer in middle of Hallel, those things that you would answer in middle of Birchas Krishma. Those things that you would answer from Yotzei Or to Shemon Esrei, those are the things that you could answer during that, which means like this. You say, Chodesh, 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 in Kedusha. Chodesh, Baruch and Yimlech, those 3 sentences. You don't say Nagdishach. If the Miyatzeh is davening Musaf and you're in the middle of Hallel, you don't say Kesei Git Nunucha, you just say Kodesh Baruch and Yimlech. Okay? What happens if it's Shabbos L'Moshel? So in Shabbos you have additions on each. You say Baruch Ved Hashem Mekaymet, then you say Mekaymach Malkeinu Sefiyah, Mekaymo Yifen. That, the things you add on Shabbos, you don't say if you're in the middle of Pesukah de Zimra. You don't say that if you're in the middle of Pesukah de Zimra. I'm sorry. Birchas Krishma, Pesukah de Zimra you do. Birchas Krishma, then you don't say it. So over there, what happens if you stop the middle of a pasuk to answer Kedusha Baruch or whatever, then you start from the middle of the pasuk again. You don't go back to the beginning of the pasuk. Now, which means like this, what do you say in the middle of Hallel? We say, Kodesh Baruch Yimlech. You answer Amen after Hakela Kodesh and Shema Koleinu. You say Baruch Hu. If somebody gets an aliyah on the bracha Baruch Atah Hashem Neisin HaTorah, those 2 brachas you can answer Amen. If they're by Maidim, you just say the 3 words Maidim Anachnu Loch. That's it. That's exactly like in Birchas Krishma. In Birchas Krishma, if the minyan is saying Maidim, you just say Maidim Anachnu Loch. And you say Amen after Akel HaKodesh, you say Amen Yesh Mirabah. Just those things that you would say normally during Birchas Krishma.
Half Hallel, if you're making a bracha before the Chazan, do you say Amen to the Chazan?
If you finish before the Chazan, then you do answer Amen. Even though some guys write no, but I can't understand why. What?
Like Musaf, instead of saying you say like what happens?
And where are you up to now?
No, I just walked in, that's it.
Okay, so you said Nagdisha.
Instead of Keter, it's an Akisha.
I promise you that should be the worst crime or sin any of us ever do in life.
What if you're in a minyan?
So you correct yourself.
You wrote it down.
Then that's it.
If you are behind and the minyan start the Hallel, you stop where you are, start with them?
It depends where in davening you are. In Pesukah de Zimra, yes. In after Baruch Hu, no. But there's another din that Hallel. Why is it saying? Okay, yeah. Hallel, you have to say standing. You have to say standing. Why? Because it says, Hallelu Avdei Hashem Ha'oimdim Bebeis Hashem Baleilis. So it says, Ha'oimdim Bebeis Hashem Baleilis. So you stand for Hallel. And therefore it says in halacha, because it's not as important as standing for Shemoneh Esrei. I'll tell you what the difference is. According to halacha, if you're leaning on something with your weight, that if they would pull it away, you'd fall down, that's not called standing. That's called reclining. Now, if I just stand, I'm standing properly, I put my hands here, as long as if they pull it away, I can still stand, that's called standing. But if I'm putting my weight on it, or I'm going like this, so then by Shemoneh Esrei, you're not allowed to do this. By Hallel, it says, you're not supposed to lean in a way that you're going to pull off.
What part of Davin?
I remember Mendel Futterfass told the story that he was once a witness on a get that the Rebbe's father, Reb Leivik, wrote wherever it was, in Russia. And he was a witness on the get, and he was just touching the table, Because witnesses, the Torah says, V'amdu shnei anoshim. The din is witnesses must say the testimony standing. By dine mominis, by monetary things, the Chachamim were lenient, because there would be a lot of problems otherwise. You wouldn't get witnesses and things. So then, in monetary things, there you can sit. Witnesses testify today and sit. Because technically, witnesses that sign a ksuba, they're testifying. So technically, they would have to stand. But the pearl, today they sit. But in cases like a get or things where you have proper witnesses that make it happen, or by Kedushin even, when the guy gives the ring for Kedushin, the guy has to stand. Because this that the Chachamim were lenient, that witnesses can write the testimony on paper and send it into Bais Din, that's only by monetary issues. But other times when you need to stand, you can't, if you lean on something, it's not a kosher witness. It's pushing not a kosher get, if that would be get what?
Is Hallel treated like Birchas Krishma in terms of answering Amen?
I just said that. Hallel is a Birchas Krishma, yeah, I said that.
What about Davin, can somebody walk up to Sefer Torah if they call him? Obviously not in the middle of Shemona Esrei.
Shemona Esrei not, in Birchas Krishma they shouldn't call you. I did they shouldn't call you in Psukkah Zimmer either. But if they called you Psukkah Zimmer, you go up and you read along. Birchas Krishma, you go up but you don't read along.
You say the bracha?
Yeah. The mother of Shemona Esrei, you don't go up. What?
Davening, if you say a pasuk wrong, you have to stop cook turkey.
What do you mean say the pasuk wrong?
If you catch yourself saying the pasuk.
Yes, so then you have to go back at the beginning and correct it.
No, I know, but if you're saying a different pasuk, or you have to stop. You can't finish that pasuk. That's what you said regarding making a mistake in Hallel. You said if you're saying a pasuk you're not supposed to be saying, just finish the pasuk.
No, because Leilana really is part of Hallel.
Okay, so because it's part of the Hallel.
Yeah. What?
I'm sorry, did you say that the witnesses for Ketubah, if they're sitting,
Biblically, they should have to stand.
okay,
But the Chacham says, Ksuba is a financial document. All a Ksuba is a financial document. It has nothing to do with anything of the wedding. It's a financial document. Okay, it's the obligation of a husband to the wife financially. So therefore, a man cannot be with his wife if they don't have a ksuba, if they lost a ksuba, whatever, you have to rewrite it. But it's a financial obligation. It's not, Kedushin is not a financial obligation. Kedushin is making it happen. A get, witnesses and a get, or witnesses, whatever it may be. In a murder testimony, okay, they would have to stand.
so the get is not.
If a witness is testified, a guy in time of the Bais Din, that a guy ate chazer and he was warned, so then he gets lashes, the witnesses are not allowed to sit. They couldn't write the testimony into Bais Din either.
So Ketubah is not a cancellation, get is not a cancellation of Ketubah, it's a cancellation of the wedding vows.
Of the Kedushin. Yeah, Kedushin is a financial obligation. It's mamish a financial document. The only reason we read the Ksuba, that's to show, the reason why we read the Ksuba, we shouldn't even be reading the Ksuba. It's a financial document. Why do we read the Ksuba at a wedding? So we learned already, because there's two parts of a chuppah today. Years ago it was 12 months apart. There's the Kedushin aspect, they're called Eidusin, and then there's the Nisuyin. Eidusin forbids the woman to be with anybody else. Nisuyin allows the woman to be with him. Okay? So now, years ago, the Gemara says, in Ksubas, the Mishnah, so you give it 12 months between the Kedushin and the wedding. Now we do it all under the chuppah. Okay? So, in order to make a break between part 1 and part 2, what do you do to make a break? We read the Ksuba. Today it's a big honor to read the Ksuba. In the time of the Gemara and later generations, it was such an unrespectable honor that the shamis, the guy in the show, would just read the Ksuba. It wasn't even considered an honor at a wedding. Nowadays, it's a big honor because nobody can read it. So if you can read it, it's a big honor. Nusuin. Yeah. No, the ksuba is the husband to be able to live with his wife. Edison, you can't anyway. Ksuba is a marital responsibility of husband to wife in a financial way. He has to heal her, he has to feed her, he has to, God forbid, if he dies of divorce, he has to pay the ksuba. That's it. It's a financial document, like a loan document. It's the same thing.
That's a separation between what?
Between this Edison and the Suin.
So what's the landmark for Edison?
Harayat Mekadeshasli. That's Kedushin is Harayat Mekadeshasli, and the bracha. Edison and Kedushin is the same thing. In the Gemara, it's interchangeable. Mekadesh is Amadis is Isha.
In the Gemara time, it was a year apart.
Yeah, by a psula, yeah.
You said if he dies, he has to support him.
He has to pay the ksuba.
If he died, I mean, he has to come back.
Comes from yeah, you should come back, oh, God forbid. The heirs, the state has to pay. But besides that, if a woman, if the husband dies, we got way off topic here from Hallel. If a husband dies, the woman is fed from the estate until she either remarries or collects the ksuba. So generally speaking, she wouldn't want to collect the ksuba because the ksuba she'll get eventually. And then at least she's fed. Machat shinas no meise mechad v'vayin kim shv'lag al teira v'chanan mekashim edat l'boch zak sel v'goch Ebel hamtei mit shenamad adina chafei tzaman tzidka yachnu teira v'yadi. Sorry.